The hidden credit card trap that's costing people years of wealth. Have you ever noticed how a credit card can make a financial problem disappear instantly, but somehow make your overall finances worse over time? Most adults understand that credit cards charge interest. That's not the part people ignore. The hard truth is that credit cards don't just change how you spend money, they change how you think about money. And for millions of people across the United States and Europe, that psychological shift quietly becomes one of the biggest obstacles to building wealth. Let's look at a fairly normal example. Imagine someone named David. He's 31 years old, works a decent office job, and earns around $65,000 a year. After taxes and deductions, he brings home roughly $4,000 per month. At first glance, that sounds comfortable, but then reality starts taking its share. His rent is $1,500. His car payment is $400. Insurance, utilities, fuel, internet, and groceries take another $1,000. His student loan requires $250 every month. Suddenly, the $4,000 doesn't feel like $4,000 anymore. And that's before social life enters the picture. Friends go out for dinner, someone gets married. A weekend trip appears, a new phone launches. People at work upgrade their wardrobes. Social media constantly reminds him what a successful life is supposed to look like. None of these expenses seem outrageous individually. That's what makes the situation so dangerous. When David runs short one month, he doesn't panic. He simply uses his credit card. A few $100s here, a few $100s there. Nothing dramatic. After all, that's what credit cards are for, right? But here's where something interesting happens. The credit card doesn't solve the affordability problem, it postpones it. And once postponed, the problem becomes harder to see. Let's say David accumulates a balance of $5,000. His card charges 22% annual interest. That's not unusual today. If he only makes minimum payments, he could easily spend thousands of dollars in interest over the life of that debt. But the interest itself isn't the biggest issue. The bigger issue is what the debt represents. The credit card allowed David to consume part of his future income before he earned it. In other words, future David is now working to pay for past David's lifestyle, and that changes the financial equation entirely. Think about it this way. Imagine you receive a raise, maybe an extra $300 per month. Normally, that money could improve your financial position. You could save it, invest it, build an emergency fund, reduce financial stress. But if you're carrying credit card debt, that extra money often disappears into payments and interest. The raise increases your income, but it doesn't increase your freedom. This is one of the reasons many people feel financially stuck despite earning more than they did 5 or 10 years ago. Their income grows, their obligations grow faster, and credit cards quietly bridge the gap. Now let's expand the picture. David isn't alone. Across developed countries, millions of adults are experiencing the same cycle. Their salaries increase over time, yet somehow their financial stress remains. The reason is often hidden beneath the surface. Every time future income is committed to today's spending, tomorrow becomes slightly more expensive. A credit card balance may seem manageable at first, but multiple balances, subscriptions, financing plans, and recurring obligations slowly stack on top of each other. Individually, they look harmless. Together, they create pressure, and pressure changes behavior. People begin making decisions based on monthly affordability instead of long-term financial health. A purchase that costs $2,000 feels reasonable when it's broken into small monthly payments, but the total cost hasn't changed, only the way the brain perceives it. This is why marketers love installment plans. The focus shifts away from price and toward payment size. And once attention moves away from total cost, spending naturally increases. There's another consequence that rarely gets discussed. Debt reduces flexibility. Imagine David suddenly loses his job, or faces a medical emergency, or needs to relocate for a better opportunity. Without debt, those situations are stressful but manageable. With debt, every decision becomes harder. Future income has already been assigned a job before it arrives. That limits options. And financial freedom is largely about having options, the ability to say yes to opportunities, the ability to handle unexpected setbacks, the ability to make decisions without constant financial pressure. Credit card debt quietly reduces all three. The psychological side is even more fascinating. Human beings experience spending differently depending on when the pain occurs. When you hand over cash, the pain is immediate. When money leaves your bank account, you notice it. But with a credit card, the purchase and the consequence become separated. You get the reward today, the cost arrives later. And once the brain learns that pattern, spending becomes easier. Researchers have observed this behavior for years. People consistently spend more when payment is delayed, not because they're irresponsible, because they're human. The modern financial system understands this extremely well. That's why rewards programs, cashback offers, points, and installment plans are so effective. They make spending feel intelligent, even when the underlying purchase wasn't necessary. Consider how often people justify purchases because they're earning points. A person spends $1,000 to earn rewards worth a small fraction of that amount. Technically, they received a benefit, but the larger expense still occurred. The reward feels significant, the cost feels distant. And that's exactly why the strategy works. Again, the problem isn't the credit card itself. A credit card is simply a tool. The real issue is using future income to maintain a lifestyle that current income cannot support. And unfortunately, many adults don't realize this is happening until years later. At that point, the effects become visible. Retirement savings are lower than expected. Investment accounts are smaller than they should be. Emergency funds never seem to grow. Financial stress remains constant despite income increases. What's interesting is that financially intelligent people often look at credit cards differently. They don't see available credit as available money. They see it as a temporary payment mechanism. The purchase decision happens before the card is used, not after. It only changes the timing of the payment. That sounds simple, but it's a completely different mindset. One mindset asks, can I make the monthly payment? The other asks, can I actually afford the total cost? Those are very different questions, and over decades they produce very different financial outcomes. Think about two people earning exactly the same income. The other consistently directs extra money towards savings and investments. For a few months, the difference is almost invisible. After a few years, it becomes noticeable. After a few decades, the gap can be enormous. Not because one person earned dramatically more, but because one person repeatedly purchased flexibility while the other repeatedly sold it. The hard truth about credit cards is not that they're evil, it's that they quietly encourage people to confuse access to money with ownership of money. Understanding that distinction doesn't make anyone rich overnight, and those choices ultimately determine whether money becomes a source of freedom or a source of stress. If you found this perspective useful, consider subscribing for more thoughtful discussions about money, psychology, and long-term wealth building.